the pre-show right now. Everything you say, people will hear, but the show hasn't started.
Sure.
All right, so let's see here. Twitch has accepted the stream.
Hmm?
YouTube has accepted the stream. Facebook has accepted the stream. Vicky, do you want me to send you the link or put it on the Peace Center, or what do you want to do now?
Center Facebook, we don't really have much of a Peace Center Facebook page right now
All
since
right. All right.
our page was hijacked.
Right, and you're still recovering from that.
There is a new one, if you've seen it, that's called Justice. Um, wait a minute. Justice. Let me see. So, I mean, yeah, you can send me the link, and then I can put it on later.
I will be happy to do that.
That'd be great. And actually, send it to both me and Thomas. If you want to do that, then he can use it however he wants.
Sure thing.
So there'll be this link, and then there's the link to the YouTube, to the
Okay.
YouTube taping. Is that going to be the same link?
No, no, different companies.
Okay.
And they're not really friends with each other.
Can you send both links?
I can send both links. Let me get the link first.
Sure. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, getting the link. I got to do it on the other platform. Hold on.
And it's just, it'll go very generally from me doing some introductory stuff to talking about values, and then about Robert and, saying his name, telling his, just heinous tragedy, and then broadening it out into, the criminal justice system, the injustices, the purposes, the what's going on there, and then really going into what's needed, and then how people can help with some of those things.
Okay, here is the link. I don't know, Rob, how to get it through to Robert, so I'll send it to you.
Well, if you send it to the email that I sent the whole program to.
The text is, it's easier for me to text it, so it should have just arrived in your text box.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here, you know what I can do? Can I just do this?
Oh yeah, you want the YouTube link also.
Well, here, what I was going to do is start a text that has Jerome, that has all of us on. Okay. So.
Okay, now I'm sending you the YouTube link.
Well, here, I'm actually sending you both. I'm including you on our 3. So we now have all 4 of us in a chat.
All right.
But anyway, maybe that might get Jerome's attention to join us before.
That would be good. Yeah. Did you say you sent a group text or a group what?
I just did just now. It just said.
All right. Waiting for it to come in.
Oh, wait. Oh, I see what happened. Oh, I meant to write here, but there it is. See it?
Yes.
All right, I just got it. I'll send everybody the 2 links.
Okay, well, thanks.
Okay, so here is the YouTube link. And here is the Facebook link. You should have gotten the YouTube link.
Yeah.
And then there
Yeah.
goes the Facebook. There you go. Everybody should have it now, right?
Wonderful. And actually, I'd recommend using the YouTube link just because it'll be chronically available in a way, and everyone can get to it. Whereas Facebook, some people are on it, some people aren't on it, etc.
Okay, so whenever you're ready to start, I will start the timer.
Okay. Are you ready, Thomas?
Yes. I'm just going to turn on my.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So then let's go.
Okay, here we go. When it says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay, it's going. Oh, and you'll see how much time is left. We're going for 58 minutes.
Okay.
Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded by Think Twice Radio in Home of the Future, also the home of our producer and friend, Richard Wicca. Thanks, Richard. And when I'm thinking of thankfulness, I also think of our friends at WBNY who are sharing this program, Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center. That's WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, coming out of Buff State at 91.3 FM. Thank you, WBNY. And thankfulness makes me think of so many people, especially our Indigenous friends and our friends who've had a history of enslavement and the grievous trauma and injustices that have been heaped on people, that continue still to be thankful and strong and resilient. Certainly here on the land, in the land of the Seneca or the Onondaga, they have a habit of just starting every meeting with thankfulness to Mother Earth, to thankfulness for the waters, the living waters, for all the creatures and plants and things that make this world a wonderful world for us to live in, and the creator that creates it all and the love that makes it all happen. So then they say Nyahweh, and the people say Je, or Nyahweh, Nyo. So you say Nyo, Richard, or Thomas?
Yes.
No. Say no.
No.
No. Thank you. It sort of means yes or yes, or ashe is really, it's just the same in some way. It's equivalent. So I've been just saying ashe. It's Kwanzaa. This is new. We're taping this on New Year's Day. I know people will be hearing it, I think, on Epiphany. So, and then the following, so anyway, there's a lot going on, and there's the wonderful and the terrible side by side every day as usual. So we have a very important and hard hitting program today. We're going to be talking about the heinousness of our criminal justice or criminal injustice system that actually includes the lynching of Robert Brooks, and we'll be talking a lot about that. So before anything, I want to introduce our guest, our wonderful guest here, Thomas Gant, who's running the Communities Not Cages campaign, is with the Center for Community Alternatives, working hard on so many things, and just really a man in the middle of it all and just doing wonderful work. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're grateful that you made time to get here in this busy time. And this should be a time for you to take a little rest, but the needs are great. And there's a lot happening just right now. And I know this week has been very, very, well, terrible, the wonderful and the terrible, just like we were saying. So before we start to really get into the topic, if we could start with just when we think about the criminal justice or criminal injustice system in this country, what are the values that come to your mind, Thomas?
Well, some values when it comes to any type of justice. It should be about restoration. It should be about family. It should be about respect for humanity. And I
Yes.
think you get all the other things that you may want, but you have to have, that respect, the humanity, that family, and that restoration.
I love what you said. It makes me think of actually in connection with this, I was talking with my friend Carrie Horn, and it came up it brought up the same thought of justice being so related to reverence for life. That is a phrase, reverence for life, or that dignity and humanity of people. And I can't help thinking, as I always think of, truth and love, because the truth about what the system is really about and how it really happens, and the love that drives people to do the work, to try to make the changes, to see real justice in this. There is so much injustice. Makes me think of Cornel West quote too, that justice is what love looks like in public. So as a real fighter for justice, I just want to thank you for coming, Thomas, and for all the work you're doing. So let's just dive right in and to what happened with Robert Brooks. Now, a lot of people may know, but just if you want to talk, especially from your perspective, what and I know you just had a very big event there. Just a little, if you want to start telling his story and what's happened since.
Yeah. So Robert Brooks, what I've come to learn is that, he was a father. He was 43 years old, a Black father, was incarcerated, but was working towards his second chance, as his father said, his redemption. And somehow, some way, something happened during his incarceration, and his life was snuffed from him. His chance for redemption was taken away. His family was harmed. Right, our community lost another great man, and it was all at the hands of some very abusive, unchecked officers, and there was no respect for humanity with their interaction with him while he was in their custody, and he went above and beyond. So thankfully, there was a video of that whole interaction, and the world has now gotten to see it. And so, unfortunately, I'm also a formerly incarcerated citizen of New York State, and things like this have gone on for years. The abuse, even the murder of citizens, right, humans in prison. But unfortunately, there wasn't any video footage of some of those interactions. So this one, thankfully, was caught on tape. It's unfortunate that his family had to see this. It's also unfortunate that other formerly incarcerated people and people who's incarcerated have to now relive that same trauma as well. So I'm thankful for that video, and hopefully this is a pivot and a turn towards corrections.
I'm so grateful for your coming on, because you're right in the thick of it in a lot of ways, because since he was from Rochester, so the people who know him and love him, and things happen. Yes, things happen. People make mistakes, or, the criminal justice system is not functioning, is not functional. We know that there's been all kinds of deaths in them here in Buffalo and Erie County. We've had terrible, one every 6 months on the average. That has actually picked up a little bit since the new sheriff in town. It's not better. It's the same or worse. So it's the same old story, and there's always an excuse. And it's just a brutal. I mean, having seen some of the footage and just knowing that lynching is actually, I looked it up to see what the dictionary calls lynching, like mass murder. So it's somebody being killed, murdered by a group of people, and that's what makes it a lynching. So it wouldn't be, if it's one person doing it, it may be a murder. But this lynching, public is not, I guess, the right word, because it was behind the prison walls, but public in the sense that they all saw it. Nobody was stopping it. The nurses that were seeing it, the other guards that were seeing it, and then the numbers that participated. That was just a plain out lynching, simple, pure and simple. There's some, claim that he tried to bite or that he bit somebody or something. First of all, there's no proof of that. That's the easiest thing to just say it. But even if it was, there is no excuse. No excuse, none. That was just plain murder. There's no, just beat him to death. That's what, And so I know also that so many people came out. I saw it on the local news here in Buffalo about the rally that you had in Rochester. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the rally that we held in Rochester was in collaboration with several other organizations and also groups of people in Rochester. And the ultimate goal was giving support to the Brooks family. We wanted to make sure individually that his murder didn't go unanswered or get swept under the rug. So that was for, we wanted to hold a visual safe space for the family, but more importantly, also give voice and credence to the countless other people and families who have been abused, but their claims have gone unanswered. So it was a very complex, peaceful, very powerful gathering that we held here in Rochester. But again, the design is to give support to the Brooks family, but also give credence to all those others who don't have the fortune of having a videotape, but still experience the violence. I'm still getting calls today from people that's formerly incarcerated, and they want their justice, right? And however that looks. But a lot of abuses went unanswered, ignored, swept under the rug, and things of that nature. So right now, this is a great moment that I'm hoping that New York State and even prisons across our country can say, we got to do better. We have to treat humans better. We got to get back to a place where it's truly about rehabilitation. It's truly about the betterment of citizens and getting them prepared to come home and be productive, as opposed to punitive, harmful environments that kill humans, right? So we have to move from that. So hopefully this signifies that. And also the people who gathered for that rally had demands. They want to see justice taken toward the 14 officers and staff that participated in that murder. They were calling for oversight, and we want more done. We want to make sure that we know, that our elected officials know that we want more.
So murder is just one thing. So that is a big problem, and murder, neglect, medical malpractice, all kinds of things. But there's a lot of just plain torture, inhumane treatment, and illegal activities going on in the treatment. And, as we know, I know Jerome Wright, who may join us over the course of this taping, this show, has been working especially on the Halt Solitary campaign. And there was the success of getting the bill passed, but then it's not being implemented. So that's the other problem. So there may or may not be laws that are just, and then even if they are just, are they getting implemented in our system, in our criminal justice system, which is so toxic. What I always said, and I still say, it's a sick building, those buildings. And it's just a matter of degree. And any of the county the state facilities, the county facilities are just miserably sick environments for people, and they bring out the worst in people. And then there's this group thing. They talk about a bad apple, but no, this is what when we see something like the tape of what just happened in Marcy, that's when we see this is not just a bad apple. When it was a group event, it was a group undertaking, and there was no one to step up and say stop or in any way try to mitigate. That just shows how the norms are. The norms are anything goes. The norms are it's a racist, destructive system, not 100% of the time, but that's the way it works, because even the good things that some people are trying to do there get dragged down to the lowest level with this unhealthy environment, a really sick environment.
Yeah. And you hit it on the head. The Robert Brooks murder, number one, is not an isolated incident.
Right.
And as far as even as staff, I would like to go further and say that this just shows it actually was the epitome, right, of a system that's built on perpetual punishment and impunity. So for far too long, people in corrections have been able to do some of these abusing behaviors and go unchecked. And so for too long, we have asked the police to police themselves, and it just simply don't work. So again, the whole institution, our whole carceral perspective needs to be changed, needs to be checked, and needs to have true outside oversight. It's already proven that they can't govern themselves. So there needs to be some sort of outside entity. And I would even dare say, if we're going to be creative, have members of the community, tax paying holders, and other great community, who have stake in this, be involved and have some sort of oversight. Because don't forget, at the end of the day, everybody is impacted by our carceral system here in New York State. We spend close to $3.2 billion a year. And so if you're directly impacted or indirectly impacted, I like to say that everyone is impacted, because guess what? Even if you haven't been incarcerated, even if you don't have a family member that's incarcerated, your tax dollars is going to a system that is harming humans. So everybody's impacted. So everybody should have some say so. And so we need to reimagine, reinvent this institution of incarceration that New York State deploys upon its citizens. So it's not enough, right, to just say this was bad, that what happened to Brooks and countless other people. What needs to be done is a complete overhaul and change at how we do our incarceration, our carceral structure in New York State.
I just want to draw us back, and I always have to bring this up about the 13th Amendment and the fact that it says, oh, yes, now we're not going to have slavery except for the people who are convicted of a crime, right? So there still is a slavery system. We've seen that, and that's what this is. And so when you've got that going on, you've got the impunity going on, you've got the not holding people accountable going on, that is back to we all pay. So not only are the resources that we need going into a system that doesn't help anybody, the people who work there, it's not really even helping them. Yes, they have a job, but it's a job that is traumatizing, that leads to what sometimes called moral injury right? Which is a trauma. The trauma of moral injury is when people are doing things that they know are wrong. They feel bad. They feel bad about it. Or at some level, maybe it's in the very deepest hidden part that can't even reach the light of day, or everything will crumble and they'll fall apart. So that is the sick situation that that is being created in our carceral system every time. And even the Sheriff Garcia has said that 57% of the people in, we'll just take Erie County, that are incarcerated in Erie County are, having mental health issues and or addiction issues, which I would put it at even higher than that. But that's by his estimate. So what we know, first of all, we know the results of the criminal justice system is recidivism. So people who come in, once they've come in once, the chances they're coming back again are high. Why? Because it's a sick system that doesn't work. So we know, I'm a qualified clinical social worker and a licensed master social worker, and it's very well known that mental health issues are not going to respond to just labeling the trauma upon trauma and deprivation. It requires healthy practices, community support, encouragement, really hard work on the part of the person and of the community to get to the root of the problems, to deal with the trauma that is usually the cause of the whole thing anyway. So it's trauma upon trauma that is just dragging us all down. And it won't be fixed by this. It's only made worse and worse and worse by state-sponsored violence and oppression. And that's what our carceral system is.
Yeah.
Does not work.
Yeah. Yes.
Or as Jerome would say, of course, it works exactly as it's meant to work, because it's back to the enslavement. It's back to the people working, being forced to work for pennies on the dollar. And then it's a jobs program that traumatizes the people working there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess in some ways it's working how it is supposed to work. And again, unfortunately, and that's a great point that you bring up, because when we look at incarceration from its roots or from its inception, came off the heels and off the back of slavery, right? And so when those roots are baked into the system, it's easy to have that dichotomy where you're going to have the slave master and the person who's enslaved. And obviously, we know in studying history that people who were enslaved was looked at as less than or not even human, right? And so, and in some instances, in order to treat people the way that they're being treated in prison, you can't look at them as human. And again, this is why many spaces to kind of remind people at the end of the day that these are humans that we're talking about. These are our brothers, our sisters, our neighbors who's in this. So we have to have a paradigm shift, and we have to go in and get out of that, racist, archaic, draconian stance that our prisons have been built on, and come from a more true rehabilitative model. So obviously I'm an abolition at heart, but I'm also pragmatic in understanding that right now this is what we have to deal with in our society, because our society is making a shift. And so, but with that being said, until society catches up, we still have to get away from the dehumanizing, harmful ways that we do incarceration, especially in New York State. And so, again, I'm hoping at this moment that is taking place right now, this will be a defining moment for us, and that we seize it, and that the power structure say we have to change. And again, this is why our voices have to be uplifted. This is why we gotta continue to push people. The more we stick together, demand change, they have no choice but to get involved and also do it.
Well, we just have a lot to do, which brings me, so maybe this is a good segue into talking about, some of the campaigns that are going on around change. And so, however, if you want to start with Well, communities, not cages, is what it says right behind you. So why don't we start with that?
Yeah. So I'm involved, and I also just want to make clear for this space and also this recording that so by the way, that's my Zoom background. So and I'm not really good at technology, so I haven't really figured out how to move it, change it. So every Zoom I'm in, I make sure that's in my background. But I also want to be careful in this moment, Vicky, and in the sense of dealing with this tragedy that happened with the Brooks family and making sure that we're not being exploitative or taking advantage of this for our own organizational gains. Because I'm here not on behalf of CCA, but here as Thomas Gant, who happens to work for CCA, and want to make sure that the voice of others get heard, right? So there's a lot of my peers and family members and community members who I work with and serve every single day. They don't get afforded these opportunities and platforms. So I'm here on that behalf to lift that up. But I also want to make clear that I do not want to attach my organizational work with the traumas that our loved ones is dealing with. I had to also relive some stuff that I had repressed, right, and didn't realize that I didn't even address in this moment. Still have yet to even watch the video. Number one, I've seen this stuff up close and personal for being incarcerated for 25 years, and know that is very detrimental to people's psyche. I'm talking to people now who's been home, 5, 10 years, who now had to say, wow, I had let all that go, but now, they're looking for a place to heal. So I want to be mindful and making sure that I'm not, being exploitative or taking advantage of this opportunity that we have to change and help humans also. But I can share that I am helping to champion change. So our reforms we were calling for reforms before this happened with Brooks. And mainly, I guess, my motivation and energy was because I know the harms that's taking place. And the bills that I'm working on is very transformative. It's very transformative in the sense of not only will it help bring our incarcerated loved ones home a lot sooner and faster, but it'll be incentivizing and also transformative to the prison culture as a whole. So when people are incentivized to do the right thing, when you find people who are depressed or hopeless, it's giving hope. They change. They have a sense of dignity. It has a sense of well-being and a sense of wanting to be a part of something and be more constructive. So that's what the work that I'm doing with Communities Not Cages is sentence reform bills. It brings New York State back to the forefront and addressing some of the atrocities from the '94 crime bill, the tough on crime stance that New York State took under former Governor Pataki, and also helps be what our families and loved ones want. So our Earned Time Act will incentivize people who's incarcerated to participate in programs productively. That when a person is incentivized to do the right thing, they will do it, and that has latent consequences. So not only will people participate in programs, and that's where all these aha moments happen. This is where people learn about themselves, learn about their community, learn about the world, gain skills. Right? It makes prison safer. It makes prison safer because there will be less interactions. If I have that sense of dignity, well-being about myself, and want to contribute, I'm no longer hopeless. I want to live. I want to be productive. I'll do that. That makes stuff safer and more productive for staff, right? It's less opportunity for staff to be able to have certain interactions with people who's incarcerated. And then as a byproduct, when people come home, they can bring those experiences back to the community and be productive. The Second Look Act will help people who's sitting in prison for at least 10 years get a chance to petition the judge to get resentenced and looked at. We know that years ago, there were people who got sentenced in our society felt different about certain things. Things like domestic violence. We know that people who survive domestic violence have trauma, right, and make bad decisions because of it. But when they were going to trial 10, 15, 20 years ago, they couldn't bring these things up. So now here's an opportunity for them to be able to do that. We also have people who maybe have mental health issues or addiction. We know that even the brain, science now says that a brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25. So a lot of people made bad decisions under the age of 25, and now they're sitting in prison for 20, 30, 40 years. And so here's an opportunity for us to be able to go back and rectify that, take into account who the person is right now today, and then resentence them. Then we have also the Marvin Mayfield Act, which is the third bill that makes the communities not cages, and that gives judges discretion to sentence people more appropriately. Right now, the most neutral person or body in a criminal procedure in court is a judge. And right now, judges' hands are tied because of 2 and 3 strike laws or because of mandatory minimums. A judge has no choice but to sentence people to a certain carceral sentence. So we want to say with the Marvin Mayfield Act that a judge's hands should be untied. They should be allowed to have discretion and sentence people appropriately. So ultimately, these bills is the answer and the remedy for the problems that New York State have had with their sentencing guidelines and structures. And then more importantly, here's a solution to transform prison culture as a whole. Because even people who don't qualify, right, who may not meet the standard right now, it can incentivize them to say, hey, I need to get my act together. I need to gain some skills. I need to be productive. This also makes docs come up with programming and make sure there's programming available, appropriate, more contemporary programming available so that people can participate productively. So these bills are win-win. These are things that we've been had going on before, some of the tragedies that we're now being made abreast to. And so ultimately, these are the remedies.
And you're so right. They are the remedies, and we sort of know that. I mean, that's what we have to realize and know. And we know it in our own family. The closer it is to us, the more we understand that, all the things that they're in our religions, they're in our, our best people, our greatest leaders, our icons who have told us in so many ways what people need. Not love, not hate is going to get us where we need to go. So many said, but so many people in so many ways, Dr. King amongst them. So we know that. And I know as a social worker, do people sometimes need to be in a space where they can't come and go as freely as they might, or need some extra supports? Well, in mental hospitals or group homes or something, there are some restrictions on people, absolutely. So it doesn't say no restrictions. It doesn't say, certainly for addiction treatments or other things like that. But we know what atmosphere and what kinds of programs and things help people with, I want to say, trauma, shame, and stress, which all are causing our broken alert systems that cause people to be acting out in violence, right? And also, certainly poverty is a huge driver of violence, and as well, and the other parts as well. Poverty, the injustice, the oppression, the history, the legacy of enslavement and of chronic racism, the legacy of huge imbalances in our economic system that are only getting worse. With just a little bit of a weird sort of blip during the COVID, which was still very, very unjust and very problematic in the way all of that came down. So we know the things that will help people: jobs, useful, good work that people can feel good about, respect, appreciation, learning, an atmosphere of encouragement and self-determination and justice, fairness in economics as well as, in the environment. There's so many factors. The lead poisoning that so many people have. Where is that? It's in the Black community. It's in the impoverished community. It's not in the white upper middle class community. So though there's just layers and layers of problems to be unpacked and dealt with in ways that are going to heal and improve, not in just punishment and oppression. Right. And injustice and violence, which is what we have in the current system.
Yeah, and that's the main key. And no pun intended, but the title of our campaign is "Communities Not Cages." We're saying that there needs to be more investment in our communities and less in these cases or cages or racist institutions. So that's the answer, right? We need to be providing more opportunities, investing more before people get to prison, right? And
Right.
then also making sure to have a seamless transition back into their communities to participate productively. That makes us better as a whole, right? That's what makes our community safer. Ultimately, we know that poverty is the main driver for the reason why we have these things, and poverty, in my opinion, is purposeful, right? Because poverty isn't just about having wealth or a whole bunch of money. It's about opportunities, right? So when there's a lack of opportunity, people are almost destined or doomed to fail. And so everybody should have equal opportunities to succeed and also participate productively. I work in several different fields when it comes to people who is directly impacted, and even when it comes to reentry, people who come home from
Right.
prison want to participate productively. They want opportunities, right? This is why we had to do the clean slate because people were still being disenfranchised or not allowed to participate productively, and wanted to carry that felony with them, which closes doors to people who want to, take care of their families and also want to make their communities better. So again, these are simple answers, right? And it's like we know it, and so it's time to actually do that. And I don't know what will be the switch or the mechanism to say that we need to start doing more in our communities. You talked about it, whether it was, some of the reasons why we have mental health issues or just impact lead, not having opportunities,
Right.
the list goes on. And so until we do something about it meaningful, we're just going to be on that wheel, doing the same thing. So I'm hoping that this is a time and opportunity for our elected officials, our leaders, our community to say we want more, we want better for our people, and it's time to do it.
Well, so I'm excited about uh, uh, January 9th, Center for Community Alternatives. Is it the Center for Community Alternatives meeting on the 9th? Am I right about that?
Yeah, so we have a statewide organizing that we do Zoom call. So we would love everybody to come participate. You get a chance to learn about what we do, and also
Right.
join us, and making change happen. So we have a statewide Zoom call where we get together and talk about the campaigns that we champion, the things that we have done, how far we come, but also how much more work that we have to do. And 2025. I feel really good about where we're at and what we're going to do. So we're looking forward to get not only bills passed, not only policies changed, but people involved. Because one of the things that I found at these rallies that I've been participating in and just fielding calls from people is that people's like, "What's next? We want to do something, right? We want to can continue this momentum." So we're excited. And so January 9th, we're going to have our statewide organizing Zoom call.
Well, I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about the roadmap. I was so excited that I suggested. Oh, actually, we just did a show. In fact, I think our most recent show was on the criminal justice system with Jerome and
Okay.
Sophie Fayal, who is an attorney here in Buffalo, and she was talking about the Treatment Not Jails campaign, which is a
Okay.
part of the roadmap. And I wasn't sure that it was part of the roadmap, so I suggested it for the roadmap because she wasn't sure it was on the roadmap. But of course, it is on the roadmap because it's vital to the roadmap. It's just what we're talking about. But it's just a start, but it's a very practical way to just start out with, first of all, there's problems even, and in fact, I will refer people back to that latest show. If you look on the Western New York Peace Center's YouTube channel, you'll see that latest show, which goes really into the weeds about the Treatment Not Jails campaign and why Buffalo is actually, or this Erie County has been was one of the first to really have the drug court. But now there's like two versions, and one is the white, nicer version for the people with opiate addictions and saying, oh, well, it's a disease. But then there's another version that is not so quick to give people a different path forward, and that's where all the Black people are going. So this is to say, let's put everybody in the same treatment court. Anyway, she explains it very well in there. And also, there's plenty. You have a wonderful the Justice Roadmap. People go to Justice Roadmap NY. Just spell it right out. Justice Roadmap, all connected, NY, all connected, justiceroadmapny.org. And there is a big long list, and I'm sure there's all the details and getting into the weeds, and they're all about a way of doing things that is different from the way we are doing things. Starts right off with the policing. And also, I mean, so these are, as you say, these are all so critical, and they're all about the criminal justice system. And what we also need is putting more money into the other things that prevent our even going to the criminal justice system, or even having the police involved, and diverting it from the whole, I call it Fear Inc. I've called it so many times on this show, Fear Inc. being all the efforts to control, intimidate, incarcerate, or kill that are state-sponsored, or even there's private money in there too. And it's all cha-ching, and they get all the money, and then they say, nobody says, oh, we don't have enough money for that, right? But when it comes to the things that help people, like the community centers, the youth programs, the job training or education, healthcare, all those things, saying, oh, we don't have enough money. No, because we're spending it all on intimidating, incarcerating, and et cetera. So anyway, I just would refer people to that Justice Roadmap has so many pieces. So there's a piece on choosing, well, let me just read the headings. So there's a handful of bills, or even a half a dozen bills or more, something like that on each of these. Choose community safety over police power. Well, we know that police power is not making people safer. It's terrorizing the community, so it's actually leading to more violence in overall. Stop criminalizing mental illness, people who use drugs, and workers. Right, that's another thing we talked about. Decarcerate jails and prisons and end perpetual punishment. That's the other thing, how people are just ground into the ground, and then they can never get all the problems with the parole system. How people say, well, your original crime, and just ignore everything that comes after what was just sometimes just a moment of crazy, of trauma, of, acting violently or mistakenly. Protect the dignity and opportunity of incarcerated New Yorkers, and end wealth extraction, invest in our communities, and support victims and survivors. And we also know that that's another thing where, the criminal justice system really is crushing people with gouging them on telephone calls. When we know communicating with people's families is part of what's helping people to get to on a different track.
Right. And again, this is why all this is important, because at the core of all this is really just about, helping our communities, making our communities safer, making us thrive more, right? Giving people opportunity to participate more productively. So right now, there's a lot of systems in place. There's a lot of sentencing structures in place. There's a lot of policies that is in place that hinders the progression of people in our community, mainly marginalized community, which we know makes up the Black and brown segment of our population. So all these things are just simple remedies. They're very sensible, common sense, right? Just giving people opportunities to live their lives and be more productive. And again, when we all thrive, this is what makes us all better. So these things can be changed, can be done. It's time to get away from people intentionally preventing the betterment of our community. So these coalition of people who came up with these bills, and we are all sponsoring. Is set out to do just that: make life easy, better, more equitable, and fair and just for us. And again, there's so much more that needs to be done, but this is the first step towards making things more equitable for everybody.
Well, they're wonderful steps and they're so needed. So I want to also draw people's attention to February 4th, which is your lobby day. You want to tell people a little bit about, what people would be doing, how they can hook up with that, et cetera.
Yeah, so we have an advocacy day, February 4th, where we're going to go to Albany, spend a day at Albany. We're going to have press conferences. We're going to be meeting on the $1 Million Staircase. We're going to have programs set up where you're going to hear from directly impacted members in our community, formerly incarcerated, loved ones, lawmakers, allies, supporters, and all the such. And the goal is to let New York know that this is what their constituents want. This is what people in our community want. This is an opportunity for people to come be involved and to be seen, but more importantly, heard. And so when we go to Albany, we provide lunch, we provide transportation. We put you in a room with lawmakers. We put you across the table with your elected official so that they can hear you, hear your voice. I tell everybody, you don't have to speak. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to hold a sign. You do whatever makes you comfortable. We just need you there. We want to stand in solidarity for our family members and loved ones who still carry this trauma. More importantly, we like to put the spotlight. Our theme is Defiant Hope, and one of the things that we want to put a spotlight on is the family members and loved ones, right? So it's one thing that we're fighting for to make the inside of our prisons better, safer, more productive. But there's a segment of this whole mass incarceration thing that we don't talk about, and that's the burden, the pain, and trauma that our family and loved ones face and feel and deal with every single day out here. So the goal is to get everyone in Albany, letting our lawmakers know that we want change. It's time for it. And then, we have marches, we have bands, we have, just a good space for everybody to come and, make an attempt at making this change. So we want everybody who can to please join us February 4th in Albany at our state capitol. And it's going to be a good time. We had over 300 people last year join us in May. I'm looking to have at least 600 this year. So we'll love everybody to come out. We can give the information on to sign up, the registration. We can help with transportation, and we definitely will provide for lunch as well. But we need everybody to RSVP so we can know how many lunches to get.
Right. Well, I've been on that trip, and I want to say it is a wonderful experience. Just the solidarity, the passion, the importance, the drive and determination, the heartbreak, the stories, the needs that are just so compelling. And it feels good to be with people who are all committed to that same thing and to stand up for what we know is right and what we know is going to be better for everyone concerned. Because the people who are ripping, for those jobs, the prisons that are in these small towns that are like the biggest jobs program in the town, those people could be doing other jobs that will be better for them and their mental health in different settings where you're doing a positive thing. So they want to try and do this positive thing in the criminal justice, and they say, oh, we're putting all these programs in there. But if you've got something that's already poisonous, and then you throw some more good stuff in there, is this whole pot still poisoned? Well, pretty much, yes. And maybe there's some little strands that it hasn't totally permeated yet. But the whole thing is we need real transformation. And I mean, every one of those bills, I don't know if there's maybe 30 or more bills. those would each help in their different way, but it's also about implementing them. And it's also about, as you said in the beginning, is just a different way of looking at what we need to do and how we're going to do it. And prevention, an ounce of prevention. We know that saying, is worth a pound of cure, maybe 10 pounds of cure. Just a little bit up front, or even really a lot up front, because there's a lot of money that's going into that system. That if they know the statistics where people, how many families could you feed? How many people could you lift out of poverty? How many people could you give a community center or an education, or, with all the money that gets poured into this destructive system, destructive, traumatizing system that is abusing people and not helping them, as we know from seeing the recidivism and the trauma and the deaths. So back to that. So we go back to Robert Brooks, say his name, but say the name of, India Cummings, or, we've had just, I think what's the latest count was like, is it 57 or something? 50? I'm not sure how many people in Erie County, because there were a lot more that weren't counted, because we also know that there's a lot of hiding the data that goes on, right? And misreporting things and et cetera.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right.
Again, that's why me personally, if we're really talking about fixing things, there needs to be outside oversight, right? Because I just think that the system is too corrupted. And again, um, there's great people who get up and go to work in those jobs, right? In fact, they probably should be given a lot more honor and support. But however, the whole institution as a whole is messed up.
Right.
So if you're going to play in the mud, you're still going to get dirty no matter how good you are
Right.
as a human being. So the fundamental change of our carceral system and docks needs changing, right? So that's the unfortunate space and part that we are in right now. And you said it, we're pouring millions and billions, I should say, excuse me, billions of dollars into this. And so just think about if some of those dollars could be spent in our communities, right, for people who really need it, and give them opportunities. How much more better our world would be, society, so.
Right.
And also you
Well,
mentioned the justice roadmap. So mass incarceration is an issue, but just systems. There's also bills in the justice roadmap that supports and helps immigrants, right, and giving them protections, women, children. So it's just a whole coalition of different bills and opportunities to make us better, a better New York.
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's true that, as we are all connected, all of these systems are connected, and the negative way that they're working together is all connected too. Because certainly for refugees and immigrants, I mean, back to there's a whole um, related but slightly different carceral system, and what's going on in Batavia, and there's all kinds of problems there, and looming problems with the upcoming administration, all kinds of threats, but all kinds of injustice and inhumane treatment of people, with
Mm-hmm.
that back to no reverence for life, and all the imbalances, especially economic being one of them, being a very key one of them. And we need to think differently. Actually, even our Peace Jam group, I remember at one time they always have a global call to action project. And so these kids had a global call to action project, and they put it under the topic area of community safety, but it was about meeting people's needs. Because if you meet people's needs, and those are everything from, financial needs, food and food, clean water, lodging, and all the practical needs, but also the mental health support and all the kinds of, different times we need help with different issues that we deal with. All those things have to do with community safety. And if those needs are met, we're going to have safe.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just looking at things so much differently. It's a different way of doing things. And another, I love this phrase, another world is possible.
It's possible. We just have to do it.
We have to do it, and we have to be truthful about what really is happening, and not with all the excuses of so those guards need to be held accountable. That was criminal. That was not, just fire them and then they're done. No, and it's about change. So the irony is that we're talking about criminal behavior. So what should they get to help them turn their life around, right? But first, the people who've been victimized need to stop victimizing, right? We need to reshuffle our whole deck and reprioritize, as Dr. King said, to be a people-oriented society, not a thing-oriented society.
Mm-hmm.
We then address our own racism and our own injustices. So, yeah, it's a lot to do, but it can be done. But we need the political will and a mass movement to get it done.
Yeah. Yes. And again, I truly believe when we start looking at each other as human, and not less than, which is what, again, that system that we're fighting with right now was built on, right? You have to look at people as less than. In fact, not even a whole person. And this is just constitutional history I'm talking about, right, from its onset. So, but when we get to looking at each other as human, then you want the other part of you to survive and live and thrive also. And you're talking about when people can participate productively. We have a tax system and things of nature where goods supposed to pay for goods so they can be distributed properly. When everybody's working, people is paying more taxes. Things are getting built and done. People have ownership, access to generational wealth, and then we just more thriving. So I don't know how people don't get that. Now it's to a point where if you don't see that, it's because you're doing everything you can not to, right? And so we have to start bringing the right morals back to the forefront. In New York State, we have to be and walk in the shoes of the so-called progressive state that we had claimed to be for so long, and actually do some very transformative work. It requires a lot of healing, right, and a lot of accountability, and then moving forward together.
You are so eloquent, and I just want to, raise up and just everything you just said. Just raise it up. I hope anyone who's listening, well, those of you who are watching it on YouTube or something, you can just replay that whole part again. And listening on the radio, go find it on the Western New York Peace Center YouTube channel, or come on January 9th to CCA's community meeting, the statewide meeting, right? Planning meeting on Zoom. And come out on February 4th. It will be very inspiring and rewarding, and it's going to be part of, being part of the solution instead of part of the problem here, because we need the solutions, because we can't keep going the direction we're going. We've got to keep it up. And this is we're talking statewide thing. So right now, this is the time, to make those changes.
This is the time. And also to have Western New York have a bigger presence and sit at the table. So when we have these rallies and these advocacy days, and it's just not to make it a competition thing. Well, I maybe am trying to make it a competition thing, but Western New York needs to be more represented. So this is why we need everybody to come out, be involved, right? Downstate shows up in droves. I'm looking to try to get Western New York more prevalent, more visible, and more present. And ultimately, right, we all need to have a seat at the table. We all need to have a say so in making our state better and making our communities better. So.
Well, we're definitely going to be, doing everything we can to make that happen. So join in, be part of it. Thomas, we couldn't be more grateful to you for coming on the show, but also for just your work every day, for all the families you're working to help and all the organizing that you're doing to help us turn this into a real, a social movement. And that means, nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. And these are some small ways that people can help build the people power to get it done. So we're going to get it done. So meanwhile, again, thank you so very much, Thomas. We're grateful. And for everyone there, I want to say this is Talking Peace. And together we've been talking peace in truth and love.
Thank you.
The wrap. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was, you really are very eloquent. You really are. And we have to get it so much done. Oh.
Yeah, we do. Well, I mean, like you said, together we can get it done, right? So join together and support one another and be there. And this is how we get it done.
We're going to get it done. Well, I'm looking forward to being in the same space as you, not only on Zoom.
That's right.
So now we've got Zoom, and I'm certainly going to put it on my calendar for the 9th.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Grateful to you. And Jerome was on the last show, so I guess that's maybe gets a pass.
It happens, yeah. So are you able to share those Bitly links also and those RSVPs with this?
Oh, I think I showed the well, here, Richard, can you fade us to black over there?